MeMonster.
Chapter 246. Cain, the Puppeteer. The setting of my novel became more and more vague the farther it went, but Cain was an especially ambiguous character. The key words I used to describe him were puppeteer, slimy, emotionless, and cruel. Since he wasn't meant to be an important character, I didn't write anything more than what was necessary about him. Although Kim Soo-ho easily cut him down in the original story, we had to be wary of him now, with the co-author having changed many things. Meetings are always beautiful. A meeting like ours is especially so. Cain's soliloquy continued while I was thinking. It felt like I was being licked by his slimy voice. What is that crazy guy saying? Aileen frowned as she activated her skill. Woong. Ugh. But at that moment, Aileen clenched her heart and kneeled on one leg. I'm fine. She got up before anyone could say a thing. Whew. Cold sweat formed on her forehead, but she didn't outwardly show any signs of exhaustion and glared at Cain, who was dancing on the chandelier. Dance like a puppet. Smile silently. Cain's subdued voice approached me, chillingly close. Aileen pointed her finger at him. You come down. Magic power seeped into those 3 words. Spirit speech dictating actions won't work well. I stopped her, knowing it would be useless. As I said before, the Demon King's mid-bosses were all protected by his authority. Of course, it could be overpowered with enough magic power, but that would only be a waste at this point. Fine. More importantly, Aileen's spirit speech was powerful, even if she didn't force someone's action. Aileen released her magic power into the air and formed a spear. This spear is going to pierce your heart. Her words shot the spear forward. It was impossible to dodge, as spirit speech had determined an absolute result. The spirit speech spear pierced Cain's heart. But what should have been an easy attack caused Aileen to agonize in pain. Become light, she continued even while groaning. The spear piercing Cain's heart released light and exploded. Along with the burst of light, the chandelier fell along with Cain. His body scattered into dust without touching the ground. What? He was just a small fry. The battle had seemingly ended easily. Dumbfounded, Aileen furrowed her brows, but I shook my head. It wasn't over yet. I know he probably... As if he was waiting for me to speak, organ music began to flow from the darkness underneath. It was the prelude to the continuation of the battle. Sing with the flowers, a silent song. Cain's voice rang out with a sinister organ sound. There wasn't just one voice. Many voices were singing together as if a choir was present. Humans are dirty, but they possess one beautiful thing. Tick! Then suddenly, all sound cut off. Aileen flinched inside the sudden silence. Next, a bright spotlight lit up the room. Slaughtering, dismembering, flower birthed from death. Hundreds of Cain appeared before us. There wasn't a distinction between his real body and clones. As Cain created puppets using his heart as material, each puppet was equivalent to his real self. Let there be blood. The puppets shot out blood-colored magic power. A wave of magic power shot towards us, dancing as though it were on stage. Standing in front of it, Aileen shouted confidently, "You can't pierce my barrier!" Aileen created a barrier around both of us, blocking the magic power shot by the puppets. However, the puppets' attacks were endless. Many began to charge at us with weapons. Although it seemed impossible for any of them to pierce Aileen's barrier, just staying on the defensive wouldn't allow us to win. I glanced at Aileen. Ugh! She was having a hard time just keeping up her barrier. Although her curse had been healed, the scar it left behind must be reacting to the Demon King's demonic energy. If I was right, then it was impossible for Aileen to advance any further. Hold on just a bit. I took out the Desert Eagle. Cain was a bad opponent for me. Although it was my specialty to fight against many, I was limited in stigma, which is what I need to kill Cain. I could easily kill 6 demons with punishment and discipline, but Cain's puppets were all considered individual demons. With hundreds of them here, this authority had little use. Let's go. I transformed my gun into its assault rifle form. There was no need to worry about anything. I just had to buy time until Chuck Jung-yang got here. I had about 1,000 bullets. That was more than enough. I began to fire inside Aileen's barrier. The barrage of bullets all flew towards each puppet's vital points, their joints. I emptied a magazine in less than a second, and puppets without limbs fell to the ground. The puppets tried to avoid my bullets, but it was futile. None of my bullets missed. I was only shooting as my instincts told me to, but as expected of a Grade 2 master sharpshooter, its accuracy was godly. Thwack! Then suddenly, a puppet jumped on Aileen's barrier. The puppet's body began to bulk up. It was using the best attack to destroy a barrier, self-detonation. "A storm will push you away," Aileen muttered quickly. The self-detonating puppet was sent flying, where it then exploded with a huge boom. Though most of the damage was mitigated, Aileen's barrier was weakened nonetheless. Do a better job so they can't do that. Okay. I activated bullet time and began focusing on shooting down the closest puppets. I fully used Reinforced Bullet, the new subordinate gift I got when Master Sharpshooter was promoted to Grade 2. The power provided to each bullet by this gift was enough to push back the puppets who had powerful resistance. What a beautiful flow. Tragedy strikes heavier the more desperate one struggles. I attacked while Aileen defended. But as time passed, Aileen was getting more and more exhausted. Her breaths were getting rougher, and the barrier was getting thinner. But this was enough. I whispered to Aileen, "You can rest now." "Don't say strange things. I'm perfectly fine." As soon as she said that, an arm of a puppet flew at her barrier and exploded. Boom! The earth trembled, but Aileen's barrier was fine. Still, Aileen was struck by a huge recoil from the shock, causing her to kneel in pain. "You don't look fine." "I can still go on. Run while I can still maintain this barrier. I got your back." I had no plans to run away. At that moment, Cain muttered arrogantly, "What I want is a banquet of death. It is not bad for a dwarf and a human to die together." It seemed Aileen was determined to be a dwarf. That son of a bitch! Aileen reacted sensitively to the word dwarf. I took off my coat silently. Then I put it over Aileen's shaking shoulders. "What's this?" "Just rest." I placed my hand on Aileen's head. Hey, what do you do? I'm getting sleepy." I released Stigma's magic power, sending it inside Aileen's body. Hey, what did you do? I'm getting sleepy."
Those were her last words. The barrier protecting us disappeared, but I didn't need one anymore. The reason was simple. It was because the world's most reliable ally had finally arrived. "Oi!" A deep voice rang out behind me. I picked Aileen up and took a step back. Chek Jung-gyung frowned. "Why are you with that brat?" "It just turned out this way. The enemy's in front of us. You can see him, right?" "Yeah, there sure are a lot of them, though." His displeasure at seeing Aileen only lasted a moment as a big grin emerged on his face. He was simply happy to be able to fight. His opponent's strength only made him excited. A new actor joins the fray. But what's up with those guys? They all look the same. Chek Jong-gyung asked as he cracked his knuckles. "The guy's a puppeteer. Oh, and a psychopath." "Oh." I didn't need to give Chek Jong-gyung a detailed explanation. He nodded his head and began to stretch. "So, I just have to slaughter them all." "Yeah." Crack, crack. As soon as Chek Jong-gyung finished stretching, Kain's voice rang out. "I am the art-loving maestro." "Oh yeah." Chek Jong-gyung activated Secret March. His steel-like body turned even tougher. "That's great." Chek Jung-gyung activated yet another skill. Unique skill. Infinite Magic. A skill that gave its user an infinite supply of magic power. Once this skill was activated, Chek Jung-gyung was completely unrestrained. I'm the same. Blue aura erupted from Chek Jung-young's body. I found the actor who can become a part of... Chek Jung-young shot forward like a beast before Kain could even talking. A terrifying ball of energy was concentrated on his huge hand. Wah! With the roar of a beast, he jumped into the sea of puppets. Although the puppets immediately began to counterattack, their attacks all scratched the air. Shoot! Kain's flustered voice rang out. Ha 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 ha! Chek Jung-young's laughter thundered. He jammed his energy blast into the ground. Boom! The energy blast destroyed the ground with an earth-shaking rumble. Blasts of energy shot up like volcanic eruptions and destroyed the puppets. I stared at the scene of destruction in a daze. A cloud of dust rose up, hindering one's normal field of vision. I chased after Chek Jung-young with my 1,000-mile eyes. He was smashing one puppet after another with his bare hands. There was no gap in his movements, and once caught, no puppet could survive. Jeez. His overwhelming battle prowess took me by surprise. Chek Jung-young had gotten several times stronger than in the original story. Uah! Chek Jung-young roared again amidst the torrent of magic power. I caught sight of Chek Jung-young's burning eyes. A chill immediately ran down my back. 8F, Kreven, Night Hall. Meanwhile, Jin Sa-hyuk was in the middle of a boring meeting in Kreven. As its night commander, she had to determine how to lead the night order. Of course, she was only there to appear dignified. The important talk was done by other staff members. Then, in exchange for increasing the number of knights on night patrol, the royal court can increase welfare for the knights and their families. Jin Sa-hyuk shot up from her seat as soon as the discussion reached the decision. Okay, that's the end of the meeting. Yes, Knight Commander. Oh, we still have to talk about the 9th floor. We can do that later. No, actually, just record your discussion in a crystal ball. I'll look over it. Yes, take care, Knight Commander. Jin Sa-hyuk left the meeting room while yawning. After walking down the night hall stairs, she visited the stable. Her beloved steed, Atali, neighed in happiness. Knight Commander Jin Sa-hyuknim? When she was about to hop on her trusted steed, a silvery voice rang out. Jin Sa-hyuk turned around. Rachel. Rachel was standing there. She gave Jin Sa-hyuk a gentle smile. It was the smile of a real noble, tender and not capricious. Looking at her, Jin Sa-hyuk decided to give her some time. What's up? Oh, there's something I wanted to give you. You? To me? Yes. Jin Sa-hyuk tilted her head as Rachel handed her a bracelet and a leather jacket. What are these? She didn't care much about the bracelet, but she liked the black leather jacket. Jin Sa-hyuk glanced at Rachel, then put the jacket on. Thanks, but why? Rachel answered without much thought. It's a memento, to celebrate you joining Club Fenrir. Huh? There's a symbol of a wolf on the back. Jin Sa-hyuk became speechless. Club Fenrir. It was a group formed by fans of Kim Hajin. If you continue to work hard, she glanced around a moment, then whispered quietly, I can let you meet him. He owes me a small favor. Jin Sa-hyuk was taken aback, but Rachel only smiled brightly. To explain this situation, a past event had to be explained. Kim Ha-jin is kind spring. To resolve her suspicion, Jin Sa-hyuk had secretly asked Rachel about Kim Ha-jin. At first, Rachel answered her without much thought. Kim Ha-jin was famous as Fenrir and Lotus Killer, so it wasn't surprising for someone to want to know about him. But once Jin Sa-hyuk's inquiry increased, she began to grow suspicious. Jin Sa-hyuk gave her the following excuse. I'm also Fenrir's fan. It was the best excuse she could come up with at the time. In fact, she still couldn't think of a better excuse. Returning to the current situation at hand, Jin Sa-hyuk replied with an awkward smile. Yeah, thanks. Do your best. Rachel smiled back and gave Jin Sa-hyuk a fighting pose. Jin Sa-hyuk stared at her dumbfounded and then nodded reluctantly. Yeah, I will. Great. Then I'll keep my promise too. Yeah. For some reason, Rachel had started to smile more often recently. Of course, Jin Sa-hyuk wasn't bothered by it. She had a good impression of Rachel, who never showed displeasure at her rude behavior and even gave up the Knight Commander's seat to her. Okay, then I'll be returning to Earth now. Yeah, take care. Rachel returned to Earth after a short goodbye. Wish. The wind blew. Left alone, Jin Sa-hyuk stared at the bracelet in her hand. It was a simple bracelet with the symbol of a black wolf. Fan my ass. She was about to chuck it away, but put it in her inventory instead. There wasn't much meaning behind it. Jin Sa-hyuk herself didn't know why. She just did as she felt. 28F, Demon King's Castle. Aylin slowly opened her eyes. Was this heaven or hell? That was the first thing she wanted to know. But her body moved well for someone who was dead. The intense pain that bothered her disappeared as well. What's going on? Oh, you woke up? Huh? Aylin widened her eyes at the sudden voice. Kim Hajin was staring at her from the side. Why is he here? Oh, right. I was fighting the puppet guy with him. She remembered the memory she had momentarily lost. Where are we?
Aylin asked carefully. They seemed to be in an enclosed space, like the inside of a tent. It felt comfortable and safe. Were they back in the Colosseum? It's a level 8 tent. We used it last time, remember? Ah. Kim Hajin had prepared this tent, knowing that he would have to sleep outside, starting from the 27th floor. As the tent had an air-purifying functionality, Aylin could recover somewhat after resting here for 8 hours. She rubbed her eyes in a daze. She stretched a few times, then raised her upper body. What happened? You fainted, so I... No, not that. I mean the crazy 8th grade syndrome guy. Ah, Kim Hajin grinned. Look outside. Outside? Aylin crawled over and pushed the tent's cloth entrance to the side. Immediately, her mind blanked out. She couldn't understand the sight she was seeing. It seemed as though a natural disaster had swept the land, or perhaps there was a stampede of a beast horde of thousands of monsters. Well, what the... There were apocalyptic cracks all over the ground, with broken puppets littered everywhere. I told you to rest easy, didn't I? Kim Hajin approached her. He handed her a pot that gave off a tantalizing smell. Eat. What is it? Porridge. Aylin looked at Kim Hajin and thought, I wasn't in my best condition, but that puppet guy wasn't weak. In fact, he was incredibly strong. Kim Hajin really did all this with just a gun? I thought this last time, but this guy, he really is super strong. Seeing Aylin in a daze, Kim Hajin picked up the porridge and fed her. Ah, what are you doing? I not want it. Aylin's mouth said no, but her body said otherwise. The moment she tasted the porridge, her eyes widened. She immediately began to salivate. It's good, right? Yeah, a bit. Aylin nodded. Kim Hajin gave a bright smile. I'm glad. Aylin's heart skipped a beat when she saw this smile. She looked up at Kim Hajin with a slightly dazed expression. Here. He gave her another spoonful of porridge, and Aylin carefully opened her mouth. A warm, aromatic porridge entered her mouth. Nom, nom. Aylin's face was slightly flushed as she nibbled on the porridge. That was how good Kim Hajin's cooking was. 28F, Heart of the Demon King's Castle. Kim Suho's party reached the heart of the castle after working through a maze and killing monsters. To be honest, it wasn't all that difficult. The occasional monsters were all ordinary, so they were able to advance quickly and easily. It was about time for something difficult to happen. Kim Suho's party stepped forward with that thought. There's someone there, Suho. At that moment, Jin Se-yeon pointed at a woman standing in front of a huge door. It's the witch, Kim Suho answered. The woman in front of them was the same woman who had tricked them into entering the Colosseum. You've finally come, the witch's voice rang out. Kim Suho and the other stopped to hear her out. I am here to test whether you have the qualifications to challenge the king. Testing whether they had the qualifications. Everyone knew what this meant. Now follow me, everyone. The huge door opened and the witch walked in.
Chapter 247. The witch disappeared through the wide-open door, but the team didn't rush in. Instead, they exchanged glances, each wary. They all knew the witch couldn't be trusted so easily. What are the chances that this is a trap? Jin Se-yeon asked. Kim Suho and Yi Young-ha didn't answer. Despite their doubts, they had no other choice. They were intruders here. You don't need to worry. The witch's voice echoed again. Our king loves challenges. He welcomes worthy challengers. Once I confirm you're qualified, the king will gladly show himself and confront you, with the existence of the tower at stake. Though the witch sounded sincere, suspicion lingered. Jin Se-yeon stepped forward. How can we trust demons? What? We can be as righteous as humans, as cowardly as humans, as evil as humans, and as honorable as humans. Of course, I understand your prejudice. You've experienced the madness of the Colosseum, after all. The witch's words flowed smoothly, like a mountain stream. But the Colosseum was only one of many ordeals to measure your capabilities. We're more impartial than you think. Objections filled Jin Se-yeon's mind. You can't just kill someone and call it a test. And it's hard to believe demons are as diverse as humans. Still, she knew they had little choice but to follow. Otherwise, they'd never move forward. What should we do? Kim Suho asked. The trio exchanged glances and nodded hesitantly. Black Lotus returned alive. He wouldn't have said what he did if this was a trap, right? Jin Se-yeon reasoned. Then, let's go. They increased the magic power around their bodies, surrounding themselves with barriers, preparing for the worst. Slowly, they approached the gate. Heavy footsteps echoed off the walls. Their steps were tense, but they marched forward and entered the room. As they passed through, the witch's voice swept past them like a cold wind. I welcome you, challengers, who have come this far. The other side of the gate was a completely different space, a wide circular lobby. At the far end, numerous demons stood in a line, each radiating an overwhelming presence as they stared at the trio. Jin Se-yeon bit her lip. Is this a trap? No, they're here to test you. Originally, there were 5, not counting me, but one of them I couldn't control at all, so now there are just 4. It's good that the numbers are identical. There were 4 demons excluding the witch, 10 if you included the monsters led by one of them. Unless the witch couldn't count, this was intentional mockery. Jin Se-yeon's gaze sharpened. What do you... the other one is already here. The witch looked past them and smiled. Kim Suho and the others turned to follow her gaze. There stood a man none of them expected. He was massive, his muscles making him seem more monster than human. Even his steps radiated arrogance. Long time no see. Chok Jun-young, the warrior whose body was a weapon, looked down at them and grinned. You? Why are you here? Jin Se-yeon asked. But to answer truthfully, Chok Jun-young would have to reveal he was following Kim Hajin's orders, so he didn't. That's none of your business, Archer. He was simply embarrassed. These days, he never challenged Kim Hajin's decisions and always complied with his requests. Energy blasts, secret march, and the equipment he wore were all the result of his obedience. Chok Jin-young coughed dryly in embarrassment and stepped forward onto the battlefield. Meanwhile, I was looking after Eileen, watching the scene from afar. Eileen-see, how are you feeling? 12 hours had passed since Eileen began her recuperation. She seemed better, her sassiness returning. I'm a lot better, but
I think I still, maybe, have some fever. Do you? Was that a question or a statement? She had a unique way of talking. I stared at her. Unable to bear the silence, Eileen spoke first. What? What I'm saying is, I'll be fine if I have something to eat. Ah, something to eat. I nodded. I had plenty of food, so much in fact that I didn't even need to make any. I took out a level 5 luxurious chocolate and handed it to her. It's first-grade chocolate? Eileen was cautious, like a stray cat. She sniffed the wrapper before tearing it open and taking a bite. Nom nom. I waited for her to finish, then spoke. Go back once you finish eating that. What? Eileen, savoring the aftertaste, trembled slightly. What, you want me to leave? Yes. Eileen glared at me, frowning. Why should I? Because you won't be able to fight well in a place full of demon energy. I'm fine now. Can't you see? Eileen began stretching, trying to prove her health. 1, 2. 1, 2. I stopped her midway. You may be fine now, but once you're surrounded by demon energy, things will change. You shouldn't use magic power amplification so hastily. I explained kindly to the naive player who thought her skill was all-powerful, ignoring its risks. Magic power amplification worked by absorbing the air around the user, purifying and refining it to increase magic power output. Absorbing air filled with demon energy, especially when already wounded by it, is dangerous. What? Are you saying I'll never get better? Eileen asked, trying to hide her fear. No. You'll get better if you rest well in places like Bakdu Mountain and Kumgang Mountain. Aha! She quickly regained her calm and sighed in relief. Watching her, I wondered if she was really in her 30s. Her backstory was that she became a hero so young she never learned worldly customs or social manners. But still. So you'll go back? Well, I don't have any other choice, but ow. Ow! Ugh. For whatever reason, she began to feign pain. I'm dizzy. Excuse me? I need sugar. Dumbfounded, I watched her stagger. It's my anemia. So dizzy. Need chocolate. I was out of high-level desserts, so I couldn't give her any even if I wanted to. I continued to stare at her, and suddenly she recovered from her anemia on her own. She coughed dryly and spoke with gravity. You'll be like this when you're my age. If she was willing to go this far, I had no choice. I took out a random dice I had been saving. I rolled it thinking of desserts, and luckily got a set of chocolates, enough to satisfy Eileen. Wow! Himalayan mountain range, the gym behind the inn. Clang, swoosh. Metallic sounds rang sharply in the gym. A fierce duel between teacher and student was underway. China Yun swung her sword with a spirited shout. The blade blazed with azure magic power, strong enough to shatter bones. Her swordsmanship was textbook perfect, flawless. Magic power surged around her long sword like a waterfall, rushing at her opponent. Her opponent was an old man, nearly 90. Ordinary people would be shocked, accusing her of elder abuse.
But the old man didn't yield. He twisted his body, evading her blade. The long sword had reach, but also a long delay between attacks. He planned to evade and counterattack during the gap. However, what? Another sword shot up behind Chainayun, made of azure magic power. This was Flying Sword, a skill she invented using her experience as an archer. Hanks's intuition told him he couldn't block this attack. He'd made a mistake assuming Chainayun wouldn't have a trick up her sleeve. If only he had paid attention to the flow of magic power in the air. At any rate, it's impossible to block from this position. Dozens of magic blades rushed at Hanks's vital points, guided by Chainayun's will. Yet the Lord of Steel didn't give up. Hanks brandished his sword forcefully. His fortitude triggered his gift. The steel of his blade resonated and blazed up, Kwang! The 9-star steel spirit stopped Chain Ayun's secret technique. Every magic sword bounced off Hanks's steel blade, and heavy silence fell in the gym. No human could show such skill barehanded. The steel blade moved on its own to block her attacks. Therefore, it was Hanks's defeat, for he failed to keep his word. Chain Ayun said seriously, "One telling blow, I won." "You're right, and I lost my precious lifespan thanks to you." Though he sounded like he blamed her, he smiled. Chain Ayun nodded respectfully. "Old man, I learned a lot from you, in many ways." In many ways. Her words carried meaning. "I'm glad." Yeah. She'd recently realized the true meaning behind Hanks's words. Kim Jun-ho, who took Chae Jin-yoon's body, insisted he owned the corpse of a devil. It was easy to piece together those facts, but hard to accept the truth. "Follow me." Hanks entered the inn. Chae Na-yoon followed. "A promise is a promise. I am an honorable man." Hanks handed her an old compass. Chae Na-yoon's eyes widened. This is a compass that bears my will." 9-star Hanks lived among items that embodied his will of steel. He called them his comrades, clever and dependable. The steel blade kept him from defeat. The steel shield protected him. The steel pin in his back and waist gave him immunity to magic, and his steel heart gave him indomitable will. It was thanks to his comrades that Hanks became an honorable member of the 9-stars. "He's a friend who helped me trace villains in the old days. He's seen Kim Jun-ho before, so he'll tell you where to find him." Chae Na-yoon understood the meaning of the steel magic power in the compass. Hanks was entrusting her with a friend he'd spent half his life with. "He is precious to me. Be sure to return him." Hanks spoke gravely. Chae Na-yoon nodded. "Thank you." She bowed deeply, full of gratitude. Then she turned to leave. She had nothing to pack, she'd come barehanded and would leave the same way. Chae Na-yoon. As she grabbed the inn's doorknob, "Don't turn away even if the truth isn't what you expect." A voice as solemn as steel stopped her. "Accept what you witness with your own eyes and heart. Don't give up. That's the only way you'll become stronger." His advice fit his nickname, Steel Spirit, perfectly. Chae Na-yoon nodded, her back still to him. "Yeah, I'll keep that in mind." She opened the door and stepped into the snowy field. Before leaving for good, she sent a message to her friend, Yoo Yoon-ha. "I'm about to find Kim Jun-ho. I'll bring him with me to see you." Because the weather was clear, the message was delivered successfully. Chae Na-yoon once again thanked Hanks for installing Wi-Fi for her sake. 3 hours. Chae Na-yoon walked in the direction shown by the compass. For 3 hours she pressed on. The road was rugged. She nearly fell off a cliff hidden by snow, was ambushed by the notorious Himalayan mountain tyrant, and almost became a snowman when caught in a blizzard. Still, she persevered and arrived at the destination marked on the compass. I don't even know what to say." A wave of blank amazement washed over her. This was a spot no one could find, a cave covered in snow halfway down a cliff. Whoop! She wove a rope of magic power, jumped down, and entered the cave. Do-do-do. She advanced through the snow. A faint light glowed deep within. With her perfect eyesight, she spotted Kim Jun-ho, or something that could be him, lying on the floor next to the light. Her heart pounded violently. She couldn't hold back any longer. This story had tormented her too long. The tragedy that changed her life and values. She ran frantically towards its end. 28th floor, Demon King's Castle. Now that the test was over, everyone was catching their breath. The qualification test, which began 3 hours ago, was a series of one-on-one fights. The matchups were interesting. Chek Jung-young fought a demonic summoner who controlled mystic monsters. Kim Soo-ho faced a warrior with a double-edged axe,
and Jin Se-yeon and Yu Young-ha fought twin magicians together. After 3 hours, the winners were decided. The humans survived, but the demons were either dead or unconscious. Of course, Kim Soo-ho and the others weren't unscathed. They were barely breathing. Piece of cake. Chek Young-young boasted, but he looked completely beat up too. He'd fought 2 demons in a row, and the side effects of his skill were worse than expected. Everyone, congratulations! The king has acknowledged you as worthy challengers. The team wondered if they should be happy or sad. Kuha-ha! Good! Except for one, Chek Young-young. The witch ignored his laughter and continued. But the king does not appreciate a fight against many. He wants a fair, one-on-one duel. Chek Young-young smiled in approval. The Demon King's taste matched his own. Therefore, I shall rank you and determine the order of challenge. Only when the player before you loses may you challenge the king. I'm definitely first, Chek Young-young thought. He defeated 2 demons already, Cain the puppeteer and Clemo the summoner. His contribution was unrivaled, but the name the witch announced was different. Player Master Holy Sword. What? Kim Soo-ho, you're first. Kim Soo-ho's name was called. Chek Young-young tried to protest, but suddenly his senses, sight, hearing, stopped working. He writhed in surrounded by darkness. Now, the castle gate will be closed. The witch's voice echoed in his head and, ah! Kim Soo-ho, not Chek Young-young, opened his eyes with a cry. He was now in a mysterious place. This is where you will stay, the witch explained quietly. Huh? Stay? Yes, right now the king is away at a banquet, but I cannot allow you, a challenger, to lose your sense of urgency. She looked at Kim Soo-ho and continued. So I shall provide you with an opponent for a practice match. You can choose anyone you'd like, but you must decide now. The suggestion was sudden. Kim Soo-ho frowned. I didn't anticipate this. You need to answer now, the witch pressed.
Jin Se-yeon, Aileen, Shin Jung-hak, Chak Jung-young, Kim Jun-woo. Dozens of names flashed through his mind, but the one he finally chose was Black Lotus. No, wait. He shook his head. Black Lotus had already withdrawn from his match against the Demon King. More importantly, I don't think I could even talk to him, Kim Soo-ho thought. His next choice was, in a sense, only natural. Kim Hajin. I choose Hajin.
Chapter 248. The Demon King's castle locked shut after Kim Soo-ho was chosen as the king's challenger. As a result, all players in the castle were expelled to the 21st floor. This should have happened to me as well. So, you chose me? As your practice partner? Instead, I was caught by a mysterious flow of magic power and brought into the castle. Kim Soo-ho stood next to me, wearing a bashful smile as he explained the situation to my confused self. Yeah, you were the only one I could think of. I was dumbfounded by his blind faith. He could have summoned Shin Jong-hak, Kim Jun-woo, or even Chek Jung-young, whom I had purposefully sent to help his party. I wasn't exactly the best choice for a practice partner. Kim Chun-dong might have been a swordsman, but I wasn't. Okay, well, but this wasn't a choice he could take back. Fortunately, I'd have been wanting to have a chat with Kim Soo-ho, and it wasn't as if I couldn't help him at all. I understand, but before getting down to business, I decided to look around first. The Demon King's residence looked like an average medieval castle, except the guest room was filled with all sorts of magical equipment. Hey, isn't that a crystal ball? I managed to dig out a rather valuable treasure among them, a crystal ball, bigger than most desk globes. Crystal ball? Yeah, come here. I pulled Kim Soo-ho toward the crystal ball. At the moment, it was reflecting the view of the 21st floor. "What did you say, you ogre?" "Want to try getting beat up by an ogre?" Chek Jung-young and Eileen, who had been deported to Card Kingdom, were pointing fingers and yelling at each other. "Ack! I can't take this anymore! You're dead!" Eileen's face turned tomato red as she fumed at Chek Jung-young. "You think I'm going to end up dead, you little dwarf? Shut up, you brainless moron!" Chek Jung-young's mouth snapped shut. At the same time, a huge current of magic power blazed up around Eileen. Chek Jung-young, too, gathered magic power around his body. Chek Jung-young versus Eileen. The fight of the century was about to unfold, for whatever reason. "They're suddenly fighting," Kim Soo-ho said, slightly stunned. "Yeah. Watching others fight was always fun, but I wanted to offer Kim Soo-ho something better. With a crystal ball this intricate, we should be able to see other floors." I operated the crystal ball with ease. I had experience using a similar one in Tomer's office. I switched the floor reflected in the crystal ball as if I was changing TV channels. I finally settled on the 3rd floor, Prestige. "Oh, it's showing up. The 3rd floor." "3rd floor?" Kim Soo-ho widened his eyes and stared at the crystal ball. "Hoi, Relro, how was work today?" "Same as always. Enough to handle." Prestige had improved drastically now that it had a son. In the past, residents needed citizenship to live humanely. Now, every single NPC was a citizen by default. Orphans and famine had disappeared as crops and livestock prospered over the purified land. The interactions between players and NPCs had improved as well. "Excuse me, how much is this?" A player asked the store owner NPC for the price of a potion. "It's 50 TP. "Mister, how far have you gone in the tower?" The shop owner's child clung to the player. Despite the trouble, the player answered with a smile. "I'm still new, so I've only been to the 5th floor." "Wow! And how was it the 5th floor?" "The 5th floor is scary. There's a lot of dungeons there." The reason I wanted Kim Soo-ho to see the 3rd floor was to appeal to his sentiments. Yet, I was the one overcome with feelings. This was the fruit of my labor. I changed Prestige with my TP and efforts, with the help of famous NPCs like Henry and Kiri. Wow, Prestige really changed a lot. Suddenly, Kim Soo-ho placed a hand on my shoulder. "Right? And so..." I twisted my body slightly to shake his hand off and asked the question I had been wanting to ask for a long time. "What do you think?" "Huh? About what?" "You know, about this tower in general." Kim Soo-ho smiled at my words. "I don't know. Nothing, really." His voice sounded melancholy. I could feel the longing and regret buried in it. Right now, Kim Soo-ho was probably thinking about his homeland. After all, towers must have existed there as well. "But there's only one more floor left. Do you really feel nothing?" I asked again, and Kim Soo-ho began to ponder. To be honest, I was really angry when I first arrived at Prestige. Sad, too. People were dying on the streets, but just because they weren't citizens, no one seemed to care about them. Same thing happened on the 8th floor. The royals tried to conceal the existence of calamities from their citizens under the pretext of containing social panic. A lot of people died as a result. I listened in silence. Kim Soo-ho continued, talking about the 16th floor, how it had been completely taken over by demons, about the people living under their rule, about their deaths, about players who saw NPCs as mere tools. "Then do you think the tower needs to disappear?" I finally managed to bring up the touchy subject. Kim Soo-ho stayed silent for a long time. The crystal ball was now showing Henry and Kiri. "Good work, everyone. We're done for the day." In no time, Henry and Kiri had become the most famous NPCs of Prestige, loved by both players and residents. Business was especially hard today, so we threw in a little bonus. Kim Soo-ho looked at the two kids. They were still young and small, but in a sense, they were already giants, leading Prestige intelligently and justly. A blooming smile spread across Kim Soo-ho's face. "No." He shook his head. "That's not what I want. Many people are living happily in the tower. The world within the tower should be maintained. These people are not just NPCs, but humans, just like you and me." I felt relieved. This was enough. Kim Soo-ho was not the type to go back on his word. Things were different from the original story, where he destroyed the tower. Kim Soo-ho would gladly protect the Tower of Wish, where despair and death had been replaced with hope and life. Tap, tap. I tapped Kim Soo-ho on the shoulder twice and turned the crystal ball off. "Enough with the chit-chat. Let's start the training now." "Are we sparring?" "No, training, not sparring. There's a distinct difference. During a spar, I would be his opponent, but during a training session, I would become his instructor." Before we start, I examined Kim Soo-ho's gear. The moment I laid eyes on the armor he wore beneath his white coat, I was stunned. "Are you seriously still wearing that?" "A long time ago, I made armor for Kim Soo-ho. I gave it to him as a present to celebrate his entrance into the tower using the black ticket. That old armor was still his main protection." Well, this is the best armor I own. Changing it would have been a waste of TP." Kim Soo-ho scratched the back of his neck in embarrassment.
I felt a slight sting in my heart, considering that Creator's sacred grace went down harder than in the original story. He probably didn't have the time or resources to secure new equipment. He probably used every TP he earned to help his guild members. That was just the kind of guy he was. No worries. It didn't matter. I planned to gear him up from head to toe anyway. First of all, your current equipment sucks. What? That came out of the blue? It's true. I had a rough idea of the Demon King's main attributes. I could always find the answers to what I didn't know using the Book of Truth. With this knowledge, I would make him a set of equipment specially designed to be effective against the Demon King. I wouldn't say it was dirty. Surely the Demon King didn't plan on fighting naked either. He would be wearing good armor as well. First, take all your clothes off. Kim Soo-ho flinched. Why? What are you going to do? Kim Soo-ho threw a strange look at me and stepped back. There just happened to be a bed with red silk spread on top of it behind him. I narrowed my eyes. Stop with the weird joke. I'm just going to dismantle your equipment and reforge them. My dismantle technique was already level 10. If I added random dice to it, I should be able to secure good materials. Dismantle? Yep, and isn't it better to train without heavy armor? Oh, look, there's a robe. Put that on. I pointed at the robe hanging on the wall in a corner of the room. Kim Soo-ho, though embarrassed, did as I told him. He even tried to take his briefs off, and I had to stop him. I really didn't need his underwear. Kim Soo-ho, with only a robe over his briefs, looked as if he was a member of Greek royal blood. A striking man with an alluring, decadent atmosphere. One robe was all he needed to bring out his charms. Well then, we'll start the training now. But his charms weren't important right now. It's not like he was going to seduce the Demon King. Here, this is your practice partner. As Kim Soo-ho's trainer for the next 2 weeks, I took out a card. Bahamut's Red Dragon, Monster, 8-star. Summons the Red Dragon of Bahamut to attack your opponents. 7-star attack, 7-star defense. The Red Dragon can defeat any opponent whose attack and defense are lower than its own. Can be summoned 3 times. Bahamut's Red Dragon. Like the miraculous tea house, this was one of the 8-star cards I purchased in Card Kingdom on the 21st floor. I never imagined I would end up using it this way. "What's that?" Kim Suho asked innocently. My answer was brief. "Your practice partner. While I make your equipment, you'll have to fight this guy till death." Today would mark the start of my Kim Suho Attribute Enhancement Project. A cave somewhere in the Himalayas. Chae Na-yoon quietly stared at Kim Jung-ho lying on his bed. Kim Jung-ho was asleep, his face completely covered in hair. Still, she was convinced by her intuition that this was definitely Kim Jung-ho. Chae Na-yoon wondered as she looked down at him. What should I do? What should I ask, hear, and demand from him? However, before she could decide, Kim Jung-ho opened his eyes. Chae Na-yoon flinched and took a step back. Kim Jung-ho's startled gaze landed on Chae Na-yoon. He clearly was afraid of the uninvited guest. Suddenly, desperation descended on his face, devoid of any hope. "Hello," Chae Na-yoon said, trying to sound calm. Hearing her flustered voice, Kim Jung-ho's fear receded. He seemed to recognize her. I'm Chae Na-yoon. We've met before, if I remember correctly." They had brushed past each other in the past, at her mother's funeral and also at her brother's funeral. Kim Jung-ho stared at Chae Na-yoon in silence. Chae Na-yoon stared at his hopeless eyes and shook her head vigorously. I'm not here to hurt you. It's just there's something strange about your report." A heavy sigh flowed out of Kim Jung-ho's mouth. He raised his upper body. "How did you know that I was here?" He spoke in a husky whisper. His voice was evidence of all the suffering he had endured. I used this." Chae Na-yoon carefully took out Hank's compass. Kim Jung-ho looked back and forth between her and the compass. The compass proved she'd earned Hank's respect. With another sigh, Kim Jung-ho pulled himself out of bed. "At least, let me serve you some tea. Please make yourself comfortable." He pointed at the table and the chair next to the bed. Chae Na-yoon sat obediently. A copy of the Violet Times was on the table. The front page headline read, "Chae Ju-chol Murders Devil." Chae Na-yoon's heart trembled faintly. "Please, wait." Kim Jung-ho disappeared deeper into the cave and returned with a kettle of barley tea and 2 cups. Steam rose from the warm tea. He poured the tea into the cups. Chae Na-yoon sat still, staring at the surface of the tea. Warm steam drifted near her nose. At that moment, Kim Jung-ho spoke. "Are you here to retrieve Chae Ju-nin's body?" "Pardon?" Suddenly, old thoughts arose in Chae Na-yoon's mind. Kim Jung-ho said he owned the corpse of a devil. Kim Jung-ho switched Chae Ju-nin's body and vanished. Chae Na-yoon clenched her teeth and fists. Kim Jung-ho only stared at her. "So you already have an idea as to what happened?" Chae Na-yoon's breath stopped at Kim Jung-ho's sudden remark. Her heart started to beat violently and her face reddened, but she forced herself to regain composure. She needed to keep the promise she made to Hanks and to herself. Chae Na-yoon clenched her teeth and looked straight into Kim Jung-ho's eyes. "Have you been keeping my brother's body?" She barely managed to form the question. Kim Jung-ho nodded. "Yes, that's the reason I ran away and came here." Tears formed in her eyes. Chae Na-yoon wiped them away, pretending to run a hand through her hair. There was just one more thing she needed to confirm. She needed physical evidence to accept the unacceptable truth. She needed to see her brother with her own eyes. Can you show me that? It was a sentence she couldn't possibly finish. Kim Jung-ho looked at Chae Na-yoon and replied, "I can show you. The fact that you came all the way here tells me how determined you are." But Kim Jung-ho stopped. The sound of Chae Na-yoon's heavy breathing filled the cave amidst the cold silence. Sympathy arose in Kim Jung-ho's eyes. Right now, she appeared unstable even to him. "Can you really bear it?" Still, Chae Na-yoon nodded without hesitation. "Yes, show me." She needed to know. What was the truth? What was the lie? "Now, I want to know." 2 weeks later, Demon King's castle. I was examining Kim Suho in his new clothes quite earnestly. The garments I made in 2 short weeks with my utmost effort were now shining in the presence of their perfect owner. The white leather armor shined brightly underneath the beige-colored coat, and the gaiters made to protect his calves were in perfect harmony with his new, comfortable shoes. On top of that, Kim Suho was also equipped with the old gear and artifacts I stole from Old Man Fional. The clothes he was wearing right now basically amounted to the worth of a small business. Good. I nodded in satisfaction. Go like this. Hey, isn't this a bit too much? Shut it. I casually dismissed Kim Suho's objection. As a side note, he finally defeated Bahamut's red dragon about 3 days ago. The dragon was quite strong, so he had to use his ultimate skill. I've done so much for you. You have to win. Never give up. Of course. Today was the last day I could offer him my help. Kim Suho's challenge would probably last for a long time. In the original story, it took him about a month to win, but things were different now. Kim Suho was stronger, and his equipment was much better. But that would be the case for the Demon King as well. Anyway, Hajin, thank you so much. You always help me out. You remember what I told you before, right? That you should treat me well if you're grateful? I smiled and grabbed his hand. I had no idea how the future would unfold from this point onward, but there was one thing I knew for sure. Kim Suho was not going to make the same decision he made in the original story. The Tower of Wish would not perish and instead shine beautifully in harmony with the world. Hey, I think we still have about half a day left. Let's not be obsessed with a fight that hasn't even started yet, I thought, and pointed at the crystal ball. Do you want to just look around? Sure. Kim Suho nodded with a big smile. His eyes formed perfect arches, and his mouth opened just the right amount. Those two factors combined to form a perfect smile. Let's start on the second floor. I turned the crystal ball on and started browsing through each floor in order. 2F, the floor of beginnings, was filled with newbie hunters and players who entered the tower for the first time with big dreams in their hearts. 3F, the first residential area. In the lively and hopeful prestige, NPCs and players were working together to create a better city. 7F, Game Center, was home to gamblers and rankers who had come to enjoy their vacation. Kim Suho spotted Jin Sayuk in front of a slot machine and frowned slightly. 13F, the notorious floor known to punish players who succumbed to sleep with nightmares. Even now, countless players were shedding tears. 15F, Genkopei's vessel, which was now my possession, had become a futuristic metropolis. The vessel served as the most popular strategic point for middle-level players. Using the crystal ball, we saw a lot of things together. Our eyes reflected various people going about their lives in the tower. Hajin? Suddenly, Kim Suho called my name. I turned my head to face him. He was staring at the crystal ball with a faint smile. You know? His voice sounded solemn. The smile soon faded, and his face hardened with nervousness. A barren voice came out of his mouth. There's one thing I want to tell you before I leave. Kim Suho turned his head and looked at me. Our eyes met. For a while, we sat in silence. The silence lasted for some time. It seemed Kim Suho needed time to piece together his words, so I waited for him. Waiting wasn't hard. For the main character to take this long meant whatever he planned to say next was extremely important. The silence stretched on. When I'd forgotten how long I'd waited, Kim Suho finally spoke. Would you believe me if I said I'm from a different world? His confession was an unexpected one. Seoul, South Korea. Currently, it was raining in Seoul. It was as if a hole had been punched through the sky. Yu Yunhei stared outside her window and picked up her smartwatch. Nayun, I think you should stop. Nayun, are you busy? Nayun, please reply. Nayun. Yu Yunhei had sent a series of messages to Che Nayun after she informed her that she was about to find Kim Jung-ho, but there was no reply from Che Nayun. It meant
she was still out there looking for Kim Jung-ho. Or maybe worse, maybe she already found him. Maybe she already learned the truth from him and now was agonizing in pain. Yu Yunhei covered her face with her hands and cried. How did their story come to this? She felt like everything was her fault. That made everything more miserable and more painful. The sound of rain outside made it seem as though the world was crying with her. Ding dong! Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Yu Yunhei didn't move. She couldn't afford to entertain guests at the moment. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. But the doorbell kept ringing, and Yu Yunhei pulled herself out of bed, rumpling her hair. Who is it at this hour? Irritated, she headed to the living room and looked at the intercom. She planned to call the security guard and kick out whoever was ringing the bell. Huh? However, the moment she laid eyes on the intercom, her body and brain froze. A woman without an umbrella was standing at the front gate of her mansion, completely soaked. Though she looked shabby, Yu Yunhei knew who she was. She knew too well. It was Che Na-yoon.
Chapter 249. Na-yoon, your father was afraid you would find out about Jin-yoon's secret. That's why he hid his corpse from you. Kim Jung-ho showed Che Jin-yoon's corpse to Che Na-yoon. The body was kept in an ice coffin, which Kim Jung-ho explained was a magical artifact used to preserve the dead. Although the corpse was missing its head, Che Na-yoon could tell it was her brother. Looking at Che Jin-yoon's corpse, Che Na-yoon clutched her chest. She trembled from the depths of her heart. Jin-yoon was already engulfed in great evil. His right arm is proof. Kim Jung-ho pointed at Jin-yoon's right arm, now entirely black. The demonic energy in the arm didn't subside even after death, undulating ominously in the ice coffin. Che Na-yoon couldn't say anything. Her beloved older brother, a devil. Who could believe such a thing? Faced with the unbearable truth, Che Na-yoon agonized in pain. Her head throbbed, as if someone was pounding it with a hammer. Then, what happened? Che Na-yoon cried for a long time before mustering the courage to ask. Kim Jung-ho fell silent, considering if she could handle the truth. Tell me. Che Na-yoon's voice was firm. She had crossed mountains, defeated monsters, and persuaded the 9-star with a heart of steel to reach this place, all to discover the truth. Understood. Kim Jung-ho nodded. He felt he shouldn't hide anything from the girl who had now become an adult. I do not know who killed Jin-yoon, but that person must have known a devil was inside Jin-yoon's body. After all, they would have needed to prepare an appropriate weapon to kill a devil. Che Na-yoon listened in a daze. Kim Jung-ho's clear voice echoed in her ears. And Jin-yoon must have accepted his death as well. But Che Na-yoon couldn't accept this. She glared at Kim Jung-ho and yelled, How do you know that? Oppa promised to be by my side forever. He swore he would never leave me. It was thanks to him that I survived after Mother's death. How could anyone? Che Na-yoon asked, crying. Kim Jung-ho didn't answer. He sympathized with her. As a father who lost his wife and daughter, and as a forensic pathologist proud of his work, Kim Jung-ho pointed at Che Na-yoon's right shoulder. There's a saying that the dead don't talk. That's false. A corpse has more stories to tell than you think. Che Na-yoon's eyes fell on Jin-yoon's body. The muscles in the shoulder connected to his devilized right arm were completely dead. His shoulder blade is broken, and the muscles there are thoroughly destroyed. This injury resulted from Jin-yoon's will, his attempt to stop his right arm from moving. Kim Jung-ho continued solemnly. I can only imagine the willpower Jin-yoon must have had. He didn't yield to evil and resisted until the very end. That's what this means. Che Na-yoon's knees buckled, and she fell to the ground. She reached out to Jin-yoon's corpse, crying, but the ice coffin prevented her from touching him. The coldness of the ice made her cry even louder.
This also shows that whoever killed Jinyun hesitated greatly. As I said, I don't know who killed him, but if they hadn't hesitated, Jinyun wouldn't have received such an injury. With that, Kim Jung-ho put a jacket over Chae Na-yoon. Even though he was forced to hide in this mountain because of Chai Ju-chul, he didn't hate Chai Ju-chul's granddaughter for it. Chae Jin-yoon and the person who killed him, I suspect, were equally in pain. Chae Na-yoon cried holding Jin-yoon's coffin. Her tears fell and froze on the ice. Her regrets, resentments, and sorrows all came together to form a cold ice crystal. Na-yoon? Na-yoon, are you okay? Yu Yun-ha ran to her mansion's front entrance. Chae Na-yoon stood under the pouring rain. Yu Yun-ha tried to let her in. Did you already know? But Chae Na-yoon didn't move. She asked, glaring at Yu Yun-ha. Her wet, disheveled hair blocked her eyes. Yu Yun-ha was shocked, but quickly regained her composure and grabbed Chae Na-yoon's wrist. First, come in. No. Chae Na-yoon snatched her hand away. I'm asking you, Yun-ha, if you already knew. Chae Na-yoon's trembling voice touched Yu Yun-ha's heart. Yu Yun-ha stared at her with downcast eyes. Chae Na-yoon was crying, her tears mixing with the rain. Yeah. Yu Yun-ha nodded. She wanted to pretend she didn't know. Many excuses came to mind, but she cast them aside. She didn't want to make the same mistake she did with Kim Hajin. She wanted to acknowledge the truth, not make excuses. If you did, then why didn't you say anything? Na-yoon. Chae Na-yoon's body began to tremble violently. Yu Yun-ha formed an umbrella with her magic power, stopping the rain. Chae Na-yoon then buried her face in Yu Yun-ha's chest. Why didn't you tell me? Why? I feel like I'm going to die right now. Na-yoon. Yu Yun-ha patted her back and continued sorrowfully. I'm sorry. I'll explain everything. Since Na-yoon had the courage to seek the truth, it was time for me to tell her everything. The fact that Kim Hajin was a returner, the full account of the Kwang-o incident, and how that person died. So first, come inside. Yu Yun-ha led Chae Na-yoon inside the mansion, gently. In a faraway world, on a different plane than Earth. The Akatrina continent was home to 9 nations, 4 kingdoms, 2 principalities, and 3 island states. Kim Soo-ho was born on the outskirts of the Pleiadian kingdom, the most powerful nation among them. Or perhaps he was born in another country. His exact origin was unknown, as he was a child abandoned by his parents. His nameless, faceless parents left him in a remote temple of the Pleiadian kingdom. In this poor rural temple, the child grew up healthy and happy. Under the kind words and teachings of the priests, the child awakened his sword saint gift. At 4, he learned the continent's basic swordsmanship. At 5, he single-handedly defeated 3 kobolds who snuck into the temple. The priests didn't want such a gifted child to rot in a rural temple. They gathered what little money they had and sent him to the kingdom's capital at age 6. With their help, the child became an apprentice knight of the Royal Knights at 6. However, the child's story ended there. Life on the Akatrina continent went extinct only 4 years later. Kim Soo-ho opened his eyes, lost in nostalgia. He must have fallen asleep after sending Kim Hajin off. It had been a while since he dreamed of his homeland. The happy childhood in the temple and the marvelous royal palace flashed before his eyes. A sigh escaped his lips. Today he had talked to Kim Soo-ho about his past, the world he used to live in, the calamity known as Demon Realm transformation that descended on his world, the death he faced at 11, and waking up as Kim Soo-ho in a world called Earth. Kim Hajin believed in what could easily be dismissed as fantasy. Should I have not told him? Kim Soo-ho felt both refreshed and regretful.
He never planned to live his life without telling anyone, but he wanted to be a good son for his current parents. The original Kim Soo-ho had died young, and the current Kim Soo-ho's soul had taken over his body. His parents didn't know this, but Kim Soo-ho was thankful for their love. Kim Soo-ho clenched his fists and looked up at the ceiling. Demon realm transformation. The tragedy caused by this calamity resurfaced in his mind. The demon realm transformation began in the continent's central region. It corrupted the soil, killed livestock, and polluted water, making human life impossible. Demons didn't even need to participate. 5 of the 9 nations fell to famine, and the remaining 4 waged war to steal food. It was the bloodiest and longest war in the continent's history, quickening its fall by at least 50 years. "You're awake." A cold voice woke him. Kim Soo-ho turned and saw the witch facing him. He asked, "Is the Demon King here?" The witch nodded silently. Kim Soo-ho sat up and infused magic power into the equipment Kim Hajin made for him. The equipment resonated and attached to his body. Even the witch was surprised by the battle gear. "Follow me." "Yes." Kim Soo-ho followed the witch down the hallway. As they walked through the long silk pathway, he asked, "I have a question." "Go ahead." The witch answered immediately. "Have you heard of demon realm transformation?" It's the phenomenon where human territory transforms into the demon realm. The king's demon realm transformation extends to the 16th floor. If there are no more challengers worthy of his attention, he plans to expand it further. "Then I guess I have to win." The witch didn't react to Kim Soo-ho's bold remark. There is actually another question." "Go ahead." The witch narrowed her eyes. Kim Soo-ho looked ahead and asked, "Will the demon realm transformation happen on Earth?" "Yes." The witch replied in a monotone voice, as if it were the most natural thing. Kim Soo-ho clenched his teeth. The witch's answer was what he expected. Towers and dungeons were harbingers of the demon realm transformation. It was the same in Akatrina. Kim Soo-ho nodded calmly. "I see." The witch glanced at him and asked, "Do you plan on stopping it?" Faced with such an obvious question, Kim Soo-ho burst out laughing. That was his answer. "Of course." This answer didn't come from arrogance or a sense of duty. He simply wanted to protect the people precious to him, the world he grew up in, and the feelings he held dear. He hoped this beautiful blue world wouldn't end up like his old home, and he planned to risk his life to protect it. The witch didn't respond. Her steps stopped soon after. They arrived at a huge door. Kim Soo-ho stood a step behind her. The witch turned and stared at him. He stared back. "Go in. I will be watching to see how long you can last." "Okay, you can look forward to it." Kim Soo-ho smiled brightly. The witch stared at him for a long time before nodding. For the record, in the original story Kim Hajin wrote, the witch fell in love with Kim Soo-ho. Central Asia, Chameleon Troops Base. Meanwhile, I returned to the Chameleon Troops Base. The place looked scarier than I remembered. In Pandemonium, a fancy building only made it a target, so the hideout was deep underground. There are 5 floors below ground? "Yep, this is your room. How's the interior decoration?" Jane asked with a blooming smile. We were inside a room labeled Black Residence, Black Lotus's office. "It's great. Should I bring the goblin tablet from the cave?" "No, leave the goblins there. We'll use that cave as our secondary base." "Okay." Geek! The door opened. Glancing over, I saw a pair of eyes peeking in. The round black eyes belonged to Boss. She stared at me while hiding, then rolled her eyes as if searching for me. I smirked and yanked the door open. "Ah!" Boss jumped in surprise.
She blinked, let out a dry cough, then entered the room nonchalantly. I was happy to see Boss after a long time. "It's been a while, Boss." "Yeah, you were away too long. I had something to do in the tower." "You only left a letter." I smiled at Boss's grumbling. "Come sit." I didn't know what this room was for, but it had chairs and a desk. I led Boss to a chair. Boss, spotting Jane, kicked the chair she was sitting on. "Jane, why are you here alone without telling me?" "You said not to wake you up when you're sleeping." Boss sat down without replying. I sat next to her. Maybe because we hadn't met in a while, Boss scooted to the side, a bit awkward. I started a conversation to ease the mood. "How's everything going recently?" "What do you mean?" "About the humanoid monsters." That. That. Boss tried to answer, but Jane interrupted. "It's a mess. Looks like they sent envoys to most Jinn groups, including Evil Society and Satan's servants." Nothing new so far. The Monster King Orden wanted to conquer Earth, so he sent envoys to both humans and Jinn. Of course, humans couldn't accept Orden's offer. Also, Hajin. Boss looked at me. "Yes? Your revenge is underway." Revenge. Him? "Yeah, that insect bastard." Boss muttered, full of rage. "Honestly, I was worried about Kurokuro too. He was simply too powerful." "But don't push yourself too much." I shook my head. Kurokuro was a tough opponent even for Boss. Not many could take him on. Rather than taking revenge on that guy, it's better for Boss to stay safe. I looked at Boss with a gentle smile. I did it without much thinking since I hadn't seen her in a while. "Yeah, okay." But Boss's eyes began to shake. Her white skin flushed slightly. Her overreaction made me think, "Don't worry about it too much, Hajin." Jane interrupted my thoughts. "We put a curse on him." "A curse?" "Yep. Remember the arm Boss got from him?" I remembered. Kurokuro's right arm. Or was it his left? Either way, I planned to turn it into a weapon. He's probably dying as we speak. At the very least, he won't be as fast as he was before. That's good to know. Still, Orden's threat hadn't lessened. He was wicked, for sure. Unlike normal monsters, Orden didn't solve everything by force. His weapon was his cunning and overwhelming wealth. Orden controlled all of Africa's resources. He's arguably the wealthiest individual in the world, using this to obstruct governments, corporations, and heroes. "Oh, I need to go somewhere now." I stood up slowly. I just came back to Earth, so I had a lot to do. Out of habit, I looked at my left wrist, but my smartwatch wasn't there. Oh, right. My smartwatch burned up when I obtained my 5th streak of stigma. It felt weird not having it. "Where are you going now? You just came back." Boss pouted and pulled on my sleeve. "Oh, I have work to do." I didn't have time to waste. If Orden sent envoys, some corrupt politicians must have taken his bait. I began to put on Black Lotus's outfit when Boss asked again, "Work?" "Yes, work." I planned to find those who betrayed humanity with the Book of Truth and execute them.
I'd start with the politicians in Korea who accepted Orden's bribes. If left alone, who knew what they'd do to Kim Soo-ho, who would clear the Tower of Wish, or Yu Yen-ha, who led Essence of the Strait. After taking out the trash, it would be a vandal's time to shine. But before that, I should visit Yu Yen-ha and get a new smartwatch. I planned my next move. "I'm going too." Boss stood up as well. "You stay here, Boss." "No, who knows when that mantis will show up again?" "Damned mantis, I'll kill you for sure if you appear again," Boss murmured seriously. Looking at her expression, I thought, well, it wouldn't hurt to be with Boss. I replied, "Sure, feel free."
Chapter 250. Yu Yenha tried to talk to Chae Na-yun,
but Che Na-yun didn't have the strength to stay conscious. When Yu Yenha placed her hand on Che Na-yun's forehead, she was shocked. Che Na-yun's body was burning with fever, so hot that it would have been unbearable if Yu Yenha wasn't a superhuman. Che Na-yun insisted on hearing her out, but Yu Yenha forced her into bed. As a hero, Che Na-yun was much stronger than Yu Yenha, but Yu Yenha dragged her effortlessly. Che Na-yun was exhausted, both physically and mentally. Yu Yenha gave Che Na-yun some medicine. Kim Hajin's handmade bed tightly embraced Che Na-yun, and she soon fell asleep. Watching Che Na-yun sleep soundly, Yu Yenha thought about how to explain everything. She used her skill, thought circuitry, to its fullest, but the solution to this tangled web of relationships wasn't easy to find. The only answer she could think of was to break through directly. At that moment, moonlight entered the room through the window. Refracted by the window pane, the moonlight shone like a jewel. Yu Yenha rubbed her eyes, mystified by the scene. Her fingers felt damp. She sat next to Che Na-yun and waited, organizing everything she wanted to say in her head. Time passed slowly. The moonlight brightened and dimmed. The sky turned darker and then a bit brighter. The sound of rain echoed in the silent room. Around dawn, the rain stopped. The world sparkled as though the rain had swept away every speck of dust. Around then, Yu Yenha felt a gaze on her. She turned from the window to the bed and saw Che Na-yun staring up at her. "Stay down," Yu Yenha said gently. Of course, Che Na-yun wasn't in the mood to simply rest. She raised her upper body. Whether it was the bed or her unique recovery power, she was clearly in better condition than before. "Are you okay?" Yu Yenha asked. Che Na-yun nodded silently, then muttered, "Tell me everything you know. I can take it. I can accept it. What you know, what I don't know, and how things became like this." Her voice carried real determination. However, Yu Yenha couldn't believe her. It wasn't because she was untrusting, but because Che Na-yun was oblivious to so many things. She didn't know about the Kwang-o incident, or that it was their family who took away Kim Ha-jin's. If she knew, would she be able to endure it? "Can you really handle it?" Yu Yenha asked worriedly. Che Na-yun gave a confident smile. "Who do you think I am? I'm really serious right now. I might hit you if you don't say it." Hearing Che Na-yun's half-joking words, Yu Yenha made a bitter smile. With that, she began to speak carefully. "Did that corpse have evidence?" "Yeah, it did," Che Na-yun replied with difficulty. "That Che Jin-yun's right arm became a devil." "I see," Yu Yenha nodded. Since that was the case, she could talk about the next thing. But before that, she needed a moment to steady herself. Yu Yenha let out a breath, then looked at Che Na-yun. "Why didn't you tell me before?" Looking at Che Na-yun, who was asking such a thing, Yu Yenha began to explain why Kim Ha-jin killed Che Jin-yun and how she found out about it. "That person told me not to." "That person? Kim Ha-jin did?" "Yeah, that's what he said. You at the time couldn't have handled the truth. He didn't want you to break down, so he decided to endure it alone." "Don't tell Che Na-yun. Regardless of the reason, I am the one who killed Che Jin-yun." Yu Yenha clearly remembered Kim Ha-jin saying those words with a sad smile. "I couldn't handle the truth?" Che Na-yun clenched her teeth. "I'm the one who decides whether I accept the truth or not. How can you decide for me?" She scoffed at the idea. Meanwhile, Yu Yenha continued. "Yeah, that's what he thought. And he was right. He could handle it, and you couldn't." Yu Yenha spoke with certainty. He had the courage to be hated, and his courage was rooted in his firm conviction. "Because he is a returner." "A what?" Che Na-yun furrowed her brows. It was the reaction Yu Yenha expected, so she began to explain further. While hard to believe, everything made sense. Suddenly switching from a sword to a gun, saving Che Na-yun, Rachel, and even herself from Jin's, coaxing Che Na-yun to switch to a sword,
knowing that Che Jin-yun had a devil seed inside him, figuring out how to kill the devil inside Che Jin-yun. Every sacrifice he made couldn't be explained if he wasn't a returner. In the timeline he came from, you must have broken down because of Che Jin-yun becoming a devil. That's why he hid the truth from you and killed Che Jin-yun alone. Yu Yen had grabbed Che Na-yun's hands. However, Che Na-yun shook her off fiercely. You think that makes sense? Che Na-yun couldn't believe it. Even though many miracles had happened in the world, going back in time was the most improbable one. But on the other hand, the image of Kim Hajin appeared in her mind. The way he was always confident in his actions and words planted a seed of doubt in her heart. It doesn't make sense. How can he be a... She couldn't finish her sentence. Seeing this, Yu Yen slowly got up. Then she took out a diary from her desk drawer. Nayan, there's something else you need to know. Yu Yen brought the diary and sat next to Che Na-yun. It was time to reveal the truth, but tears began to fall from Yu Yen's eyes. She didn't know why. Have you heard of the Kwang-o incident? The story now went back a bit further in time. Che Na-yun nodded. The tragedy where dozens of civilians and about 10 heroes died? She had heard about it before. But Yu Yen began to talk about this incident in more detail, that although the government announced that this incident was caused by monsters, it was actually a premeditated murder. Kim Hajin was the sole survivor of the Kwang-o incident. At that moment, Che Na-yun's eyes widened. Kim Hajin's past was something she knew nothing about. And this, Yu Yen quietly handed her the diary. It was the diary she had asked to take from Yu Jin-woong. The truth of that day was written in this diary. Che Na-yun stared at it in a daze, then took it with both hands. Then she slowly opened it. Just as Yu Yen had done when she first read the diary, Che Na-yun's hands stopped after flipping to a certain page. Then she read the diary in complete silence. Soon, her hands began to tremble. What does this... Che Na-yun raised her head blankly. Her eyes were red from all the tears she shed. A somber sigh left Yu Yen's mouth. She braced herself once more and talked about the main instigator of the Kwang-o incident. The person who ordered the death of Kim Ha-jin's parents is Cheju Chol and Yu Jin-woon. Yu Yen didn't try to cover up her father's sin. She confessed honestly and looked into Che Na-yun's eyes, which were flickering with grim loneliness.
Che Na-yun must be feeling the same emotions she once did. Yu Yen hoped Che Na-yun wouldn't break down under this wave of emotions. And with that hope, she continued, "Your grandfather and my father. Korea, Seoul. I returned to Seoul. Although it was late, the bright lights of the city made the scenery as bright as day. A nightless city on a tiny peninsula in East Asia, the global superpower of my world. I looked down at my creation in a daze. The magic-powered streetlights brightened up the roads, and restaurants and bars were bustling with people. Monster attack was the last thing on the minds of the people of Seoul. Seoul's population is 20 million, I hear." Boss, who was enjoying the night scenery with me, spoke. Perhaps because we were standing in a high-rise building, the wind felt fiercer than normal. Nowadays, people are moving to Gyeonggi-do because of the barrier Essence of the Strait made. Recently, Essence of the Strait's #1 research facility, Essential Dynamics, announced a revolutionary technology. Its official name was Essence Barrier. Although it was normally formless, it could detect the presence of monsters with sensors and form a barrier. If those monsters were under low intermediate, grade 7, the Essence Barrier could even strike them down. It was much more technologically advanced than in the original story. I had to thank Yu Yen for following my advice. In any case, this barrier was installed on a hill near Seoul for testing. After its effectiveness was proven, it was quickly expanded to practically every city in Korea. I've heard of it. It made headlines in the Violet Times as well. Other countries are dying to get their hands on it. Yes, military technology was usually sold to contractors after giving them a sample.
But this wasn't the case for essential dynamics. China, Japan, Europe, America, and all other countries were practically begging for essential dynamics to choose them next. Monster attacks have been more common, so it can't be helped. With Essence of the Strait's revolutionary invention, the entire world had gained strength to endure the future calamity. For the record, this was well-known information to Violet Banquet users. Because of the Tower of Wish, Violet Banquet began to sell something called the Recent Hot Issue magazine. Each issue covered most of the major incidents going on Earth, so it was easy for players to catch up to everything that went on Earth. It's good that I listened to you before. At that moment, Boss suddenly mentioned something strange. Come again? I tilted my head. What did I tell her? Just as I was wondering, Boss told me the answer. You told me to buy Essence of the Strait stocks. Ah, I smiled. Essence of the Strait stock value was unparalleled. It was miles ahead of any other guild, and its subsidiaries were considered unicorns in the business world. If I remember correctly, 15 out of the top 50 businesses should be Essence of the Strait's subsidiaries. Because of this, Yu Yenha was starting to get called by that nickname, Queen of Seoul. It was the perfect title for Yu Yenha. In a year, Essence of the Strait's defense technology would cover all of Seoul, and Yu Yenha would reign supreme as the Empress of Seoul. Now that you mention it, the stocks I have must be worth well over 3 trillion won. What? 3 trillion? Yeah, that's about $2.5 billion. Boss put on an expression of shock. That's just my assets on Earth, including the tower. It should be 10 trillion won? What? Boss's eyes widened in shock. 10 trillion. It was an astronomical figure, but it wasn't an exaggeration. I had a good amount of Essence of the Strait and its subsidiary company stocks, and in the tower, I owned half of Prestige and all of Genkelopi Vessel. Of course, as I wasn't a businessman, I was far from the richest man on Earth. I'm thinking about liquefying my assets now. The value of the Korean won is now more important than ever. I have to start building up my funds. You should start selling your stocks too. It should continue going up, but it's important to have cash on hand. I see. Boss was still in shock. Seeing as how she kept murmuring, 10 trillion, 10 trillion, it seemed the shock I gave her was not small. It was then. A man appeared in the penthouse I'd been staring at for a while. He's here. Boss's expression also stiffened. I told her what we were here to do today. Boss, you can see him, right? That's Yoon Young-hwa, a fourth-term member of the National Assembly. Yoon Young-hwa, he's a cancer of society. That's how I wrote him to be. I remember making him as corrupt as possible in my novel. He constantly hindered Kim Soo-ho and Yu Yenha, all while betraying his country. So, it's part of the revenge we're taking against that Mantis bastard? Excuse me, yeah. I didn't think that far, but it's true that dying last time made me angry. Plus, for a week after reviving, I was constantly bothered by complicated thoughts like, if I was still me, even after coming back to life. But why don't you wait a bit? Not much is known about humanoid monsters and Orden right now. Orden is the type to work in the shadows. We're doing this to pull him up to the surface. I grabbed my bow as I said that, but at that moment, we were unexpectedly ambushed. Before I could shoot my bow, dozens of monsters appeared on the roof of the building. The hyena-like monsters didn't make any sound or give off any presence. Boss stepped out and swept through them. In her Yasha state, Boss's shadow blade dismembered the monsters mercilessly. Judging by the monsters' human-like cries, I figured they were probably Orden's humanoid monsters. What? Killing them wasn't a problem, but taking care of the aftermath was. Oh, shoot. Yoon La was no longer in the penthouse. He probably used a magic scroll to teleport out while we were distracted by the humanoid monsters. Rather than that, I didn't think he'd have monsters as guards already. Are you okay, Hajin? Yes. It seems I underestimated Orden. I ended up letting my target go, but there was no problem. I had the clock hand of fate. I instantly activated my unique skill, and the world began to wind back. The dismembered limbs of the monsters came back together, Yoon Yong-hwa appeared in the penthouse once again, and Boss and I moved until we were standing in the same spot we were just 3 minutes prior. So it's part of the revenge we're taking against that mantis bastard. I immediately picked up my bow and knocked 5 dark war arrows onto it. Then I infused Stigma's magic power into Aether to search for my targets.
Aether detected at least 200 monsters. I was surprised that so many monsters could fit in such a small space. Boss, that building is a fortress. Huh? Transparent magic power formed a barrier around the building, and monsters were patrolling in the darkness for any sign of danger. For some reason, these monsters didn't reveal even a shred of their presence or aura. Boss, step aside a bit. I infused 3.5 streaks of Stigma into the 5 arrows. My arm heated up to a painful degree, but I could endure this much thanks to my increased physical stats. Guo-wo-wo. The bow began to glow white, and the dark ore arrows resonated with magic power. I targeted all 200 monsters, including Yoon Yong-hwa. With these 5 arrows, I planned to slaughter them all. When I let go of the bowstring, the arrows shot forward like bolts of lightning. In the blink of an eye, the supersonic arrows quietly eliminated the monsters. In the dark night sky, the arrows moved like they had a mind of their own. 3 seconds later, all of the monsters were annihilated, and an arrow pierced Yoon Yong-hwa's waist. He didn't realize that he was attacked for a long time. I planned on killing Yoon Yong-hwa, but decided otherwise when I thought of what Boss said. It was true that I didn't need to kill him right now. What happened? I don't know, sir. Magic power suddenly. Wait, these are monsters. They're all dead. Why are there so many of them? Heroes who felt my magic power began to arrive. They discovered the monsters' corpses, then entered the building and saw Yoon Yong-hwa. No, Yoon Yong-hwa saw them first. Hey, fuck, over here. I'm dying. Help me first. As expected of a congressman who was once a hero, he didn't die so easily. Spartan. I summoned Spartan. Pururu. He quietly landed on my shoulder. I entrusted him with a single task. Reveal all of the evidence Yoon Yong-hwa has in his home. Spartan nodded and quickly infiltrated the penthouse. He found the safe where the bribes were kept and threw them on the floor. Kwang! The penthouse door quickly opened. Heroes who heard Yoon Yong-hwa's cry entered his room. What's this? Wait, isn't that a blood diamond? His room was littered with treasures of unknown origin. What happened next was obvious. For the record, items like the blood diamond are rare enough that each one has a registration number. Of course, a blood diamond received as a bribe had no such thing. I let out a sigh. My head hurt a bit and I was tired. But the real pain had yet to come. I took deep breaths and started counting down. 30, 29, 28. Let's go back, Hajin. Yes, boss, but... Kung! After the 3-minute mark passed, the side effect of time reversal arrived. My heart beat violently, pounding my chest. I staggered and fell, but boss caught me before I hit the ground. Hajin, what's wrong? It's fine. It's just a little side effect. At that moment, a flash of light flared up in the night sky. It wasn't anything threatening, but the startled boss quickly unleashed her magic power and formed a barrier around us. This flare was nothing to worry about. It would happen a lot more frequently from now on, as it was the sign of the battle between Kim Soo-ho and the Demon King. Boss, carry me back. I'm sleepy. 4 streaks of Stigma and 1 time reversal. I used too much of my strength in one go. I closed my eyes while leaning on Boss, and Boss gently stroked my back. Yeah, rest well. With that, Boss released her magic power. She achieved super speed movement using her magic power and the various skills she learned in the tower. The next day, Congressman Yoon Yong-hwa's corruption and Black Lotus's attack became headline news. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Have a suggestion? Let me know in the comments.